All right, we're going to be reading some Max and the Gatekeeper. So, it's been a while. A lot of you guys probably don't remember what was happening. So, Marco and Max are in another world searching for Cindy, and they went into a cave, and it's like a big desert type place, and they're hoping to find Cindy. And Marco just told Max to get some sleep. Max obeyed Marco's advice. He looked around for a comfortable spot, but with all the rocks and animal bones littering the floor, it wasn't easy. He propped up both packs so he could lean against the wall and close his eyes. Sleep didn't come easily because he was concerned about Cindy. He wondered where she was and if she was all right. After a short period of worrying, weariness came over him and he nodded off to sleep. Marco nudged Max awake a little after sunset. Max's hand throbbed terribly, so he swallowed one of the pills Olet gave him to ease the pain. Their main camp is a couple of miles south, Marco reported. Camp? Max expected there to be a city, not a camp. Yes, there aren't many permanent inhabitants in this world. Whenever the enemy gets together, they use magic to come here. There are no cities, so they set up camps. Did you hear any news? No, I only observed the camp's layout and where we might find information. There is a hierarchy, and the closer we can get to the top, the better the information we might obtain. They ate a quick meal and then concealed their packs inside the cave. Marco indicated they needed to move fast, and they couldn't accomplish this while carrying a 30-pound pack. I know you can't show the enemy how to use your communicator because you don't know how, but leave it here. If we are captured, we don't want them to have it. Marco led Max south through a winding canyon. No starlight penetrated the blackness and only a little moonlight. The darkness made it difficult for Max to see, but Marco glided along as if streetlights lined their path. They emerged from the canyon and an orange glow spread across the skyline. He tugged on Marco's cloak and pointed. Fires from their camp! He pulled his hood over his head to veil his face in shadow, and he told Max to do the same. Max covered his head with his hood and tied it tight. Don't talk to anyone. Remember, we will understand them with these earpieces, but that doesn't mean they understand us. We don't need any unnecessary attention. If anyone speaks to you, give a nod or a grunt. Okay, Max tightened his cloak around his shoulders. When they cleared the next ridge, the camp stretched out across the valley in front of them. Thousands of tents dotted the landscape, each with a fire out front. Black bird-like creatures flew everywhere. They reminded Max of gargoyles on old churches. No guards patrolled the perimeter. The enemy controlled this world, and they didn't expect trouble. The hierarchy Marco mentioned was easily recognizable. The tents were larger and more ornate towards the center of the camp. Max stayed behind Marco all the way into the camp. No one paid them any attention. Strange and horrifying creatures busied themselves around the place. Many of them resembled zombies in a horror movie. It amazed Max at how well he understood whatever they said. There was a definite buzz in the camp. Most talked about a missing human that could give them an edge in the war. To Max's relief, it didn't sound like they had found Cindy yet. With all this loose talk, he and Marco would know everything right away. He wondered why they were still proceeding deeper into the camp when they could gather a lot of information right here. Max thought the camp was huge from the outside, but from the inside, he fully comprehended the enormity of it. The hills around the camp were no longer visible. It was as if they were in a city. After walking for a while, the size of the tents started to increase. Fewer creatures hung about, talking, and whenever one passed, it hurried by as if it had a purpose. He imagined the differences came from power, not wealth, although the two often coincided. The creatures in this area had a certain air about them, as if they possessed greater abilities, and their patterns of speech suggested a higher level of intelligence. There was, however, less gossip about Cindy. He stifled the urge to ask Marco how much farther because he didn't want to pop up on someone's radar. They continued until the tents gave way to a well-lit open field with a raised platform in the center. Torches burned around the area, giving off plenty of light. A crowd of creatures gathered around the platform with several small groups on it. Marco and Max marched right into the crowd and towards the stage. On stage, a black-winged creature spoke to the crowd about finding the lost human and how it was vital for their effort to free Hewditch. He said once Hewditch was free, they would destroy their enemies and finally rule everything. After the winged creature finished speaking, a hooded figure appeared to the front of the stage. "Friends of Hewditch," the man began, for he was a man. There was something familiar about him. "We have been given a great opportunity to bring back Hewditch," he continued. The man lowered his hood, and it hit Max. It was Alan. The crowd ate up every word he said. After every sentence, he would pause to a cheer of approval. And he wondered if Alan was speaking in English or some other language. "Thousands have been dispatched to search for the human Cindy," Alan said. "We must catch her before that old fool Joe and his friends. Then we will have the advantage." These last statements brought a thunderous applause. The bit about Grandpa infuriated Max, and he hungered to launch a spell right at Alan. "This is the girl," Alan cast an enchantment that didn't translate into English. A smoky hologram of Cindy appeared suspended in the air. "Look close and remember, we need her alive, but that doesn't mean you can't rough her up a little. Go and spread the news." The roar of the crowd grew to a deafening level, and Alan joined the others behind him on stage. The part about being rough with Cindy troubled Max. He scanned the park and realized he had lost Marco. He had been too busy listening to Alan. The crowd began to disperse, and Max figured it was best to stay put and let Marco come to him. A few creatures told Max to get out of the way, but he just nodded. He was happy they hadn't captured Cindy yet. Max expected Marco to show up, but there was no sign of him. The entire crowd hadn't left yet, and small pockets of creatures still huddled together in conversation. To Max's real surprise, creatures vanished with a flash, even as he was staring at them. He figured they were traveling either to their own worlds or to another to conduct their search. He strolled around and eavesdropped on those that remained, eager to find out all that he could about their plans. After passing various groups and not learning anything new, he meandered closer to the platform. The crowd on the stage was the same as when he and Marco arrived. They kept in groups, and Max wanted to hear their conversations. He stayed away from Alan for fear of being recognized by him. Max eyed the platform as he crept closer. He didn't hurry because he didn't want to make it obvious as to what he was doing. Twice, creatures shot him looks, warning him to stay away, but he continued his advance. When he reached the platform, he could hear some of the chit-chat. They weren't talking about Cindy, but about him. They discussed how up till a night ago, they were able to track him and now they couldn't. They debated whether or not he possessed more magical power than they had guessed. They wondered how he had removed the curse and sounded upset by this change of events. "Do you think we underestimated Joe?" a dark creature asked. "No," Alan barked. "That old fool found another way." Again, Max withheld his protest and remained silent. "I'll find that little brat," Alan continued, "and when I do, I'll finish him just like I did his father." This comment hit Max like a punch, and he stumbled backwards into a Goliath-sized creature. It towered 8 feet tall with puny yellow eyes. He grabbed Max by the cloak and yanked him off the ground. "Watch where you're going!" The creature's bellow drew everyone's curiosity. Max didn't know what to do. He couldn't break free without undoing his cloak, and that would give him away. "Well," the creature growled, "speak." He then removed Max's hood. The creatures ogled Max, and he thought they were going to attack. Then his blood froze. He could feel Alan's eyes boring into him. Max glanced toward the stage, and his eyes met Alan's. Okay, we're on chapter 13, so we're going to stop there for the day. And I will continue to read this every day. They'll be about 10-minute videos, and we'll read this every day so that we can finish this and maybe move on to the next book. So exciting! Hope you guys are watching this because I want you guys. This is to want you guys to. This is a really good book. You guys will love it. Bye!